Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Checks and Balances TV. Today's program is entitled, "It's Been 2 years since the Dodd-Frank bill was passed. Are government regulations helping you or hurting you?" So let's see how today's news may impact your financial future. The Dodd-Frank law celebrated its 2-year anniversary last week, but there is still a lot of work left to be done before the law is fully in effect. Only 1/3 of the 398 rules making these requirements a law have been finalized, leaving critics to question whether the law is moving fast enough to do the good it was intended, which was to protect consumers and prevent another major financial crisis. Okay, so what's really going on here? Let's check the facts using our checks and balances process. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act was passed in response to the financial crisis of 2008 and was signed into law on July 21, 2010. It's intended to impose the strictest financial regulations in the U.S. since the Great Depression. The purpose of this legislation is multifaceted, which includes things like improving the financial stability of the United States, promote accountability and transparency of the financial system, and the concept of financial institutions being too big to fail, discontinue the strategy of government bailouts, protect consumers from abusive financial services practices, and many other purposes. The law also changed the existing regulatory structure by creating a number of new agencies, including the Financial Stability Oversight Council, the Office of Financial Research, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It also moved around some of the powers of already established regulatory agencies such as the FDIC, SEC, Federal Reserve, Securities Investor Protection Corporation, and a few more. The U.S. Department of the Treasury recently released a report of the improvements that have occurred since the law was enacted in July of 2010. Included in the list is things like permanently increasing federal deposit insurance coverage to $250,000 per depositor, prohibiting banks through the Volcker Rule from making speculative proprietary bets that put bank deposits at risk, enacting new simplified credit card contracts that highlight interest rates and lending terms so consumers know before they owe, simplifying loan estimates and mortgage closing documents for home buyers, and giving clear warnings about potentially hidden fees such as prepayment penalties or rising loan balances, as well as creating new ways to identify potential threats to the financial system, such as performing annual stress tests of the nation's largest banks and establishing new agencies who will be in charge of monitoring emerging risks in the financial system. Okay, so now that we've checked the facts, let's balance this news using our checks and balances process to determine what action you should take today. While it's a step in the right direction, this highly touted financial reform is also credited with creating a lot of red tape and undue difficulties for many financial firms outside of Wall Street who had nothing to do at all with the financial collapse in 2008. And because of the nearly 2,300-page law and nearly 400 new rules imposed on American companies, financial markets, and consumers, the American people may end up bearing much of the burden, the financial burden that is, for these newly added rules and expenses. Opponents of the law say that many aspects of it kills jobs and reaches deep into the wallets of millions of Americans. Who can forget Bank of America's big debacle just last year when they proposed adding a new $5 monthly fee to debit card users in response to the new regulation under the Durbin Amendment of the Dodd-Frank bill. The amendment capped debit card fees paid by merchants, which then eliminated $2 billion in revenue for the bank. But 2 weeks before revealing the new monthly debit card fee, Bank of America announced plans to cut 30,000 jobs as part of a plan to save a total of $5 billion in overall costs through 2014. Many critics attribute this action of the bank to the enactment of the Durbin Amendment. It's been nearly 5 years since the start of the recession, and many of the Dodd-Frank provisions intended to prevent a repeat of 2008 have yet to be finalized. Of the 398 rules that make up Dodd-Frank, there are 134 of those rules that have been proposed but have yet to be passed by Congress, and another 141 rules that have not even been proposed at all. As of July 18th of this year, 221 rule-making requirement deadlines have come and gone, with only 85 of those deadlines actually met. There are a lot of powerful pieces to the Dodd-Frank bill, and if implemented properly, could very well mitigate the chances of another financial catastrophe. But the majority of the rules need to be written, passed, and implemented. And so far, Congress has only completed 30% of their job assignment. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? The Dodd-Frank bill isn't perfect. It doesn't address all of the risks in the financial system, and many of its new programs are expensive and duplicative. The Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, for example, essentially took on many of the same responsibilities that fell under other government entities. And at a time when we as a nation have such unprecedented debt, why not work with what we have instead of continuing to add another expensive layer of additional government agencies? And this group still believes that ultimately consumer protection boils down to consumer education. The government has been stating that same message since founding its last informational online financial education platform, known as mymoney.gov, back in 2004. But the bottom line to all of this is simply this: all Americans need to be informed before they buy. And while government agencies should work to protect you against the things you can't see, you can protect yourself from the things you can see and that require your signature beforehand. And please remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, so don't sign on the bottom line. And now for Matt's weekly financial tip, tool, or technique. While the Dodd-Frank bill needs more time to be fully enacted, there are some things that you can personally do right now to protect your financial livelihood. When faced with a financial decision, here are 3 things you can do to make sure that your best interest is served. Number 1, read the fine print before you sign. A major reason for the new legislation was to protect consumers from predatory lenders and unscrupulous financial advisors. So before you sign your name to any financial paperwork, be sure that you do your homework. Read all of the pages. Highlight the places where you have some questions and then ask them. If the person you're choosing to do business with doesn't want to answer them, or if you don't like their answers, then don't sign anything. There are other credible companies out there that you can find to work with. Number 2 is vote with your feet. If you're a financial institution, or if you're with a financial institution rather, that is nickel and diming you in fees, or if you don't like the way a company is treating you, vote with your feet and leave. This is still a free country, you know, and you are not required to work with any person or entity that is not treating you fairly. And number 3 is if you can't afford it, just don't buy it. Much of the changes to the credit card industry were based on disclosure, or really lack thereof. Individuals and families would get themselves in trouble using credit cards without realizing how much they would be paying back in interest over the long term. And while many changes have been made so that you know before you owe, the best remedy is still abiding by the rule of, if you can't afford it, then don't buy it. Also known as cash is still king. And while there is still work to be done to make our financial industry secure, you can take steps today to ensure that your personal financial situation is protected and preserved. Be sure to log on to our website and download our featured report, The Truth About Investment Fees, Loads, and Charges. A free report that gives you an inside view of the costs associated with many of today's investments and how these costs can affect your overall return. And finally, remember that only you can control your financial future. You can succeed. You just need confidence and determination. I'm Matthew J. Reddick from Checks and Balances TV. Until next time, dump debt, invest wisely, believe in yourself, and make it happen.